How dare you lecture America about fiscal responsibility when the record shows that Democrats are the party of job creation and reducing deficits, and Republicans are the party of tax cuts for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected, and exploding the deficit. So we're not going to stand here and allow you to lecture us about fiscal responsibility. What this is an effort to try to extract deep, painful cuts on everyday Americans.
Yes, that is right. That's Hakeem Jeffries, a leader for the Dems, and he's kind of upset, and with good reason, because the Republicans are once again really showing their hate and disdain for the working class people and their love for the rich. They passed what many are calling a debt ceiling scam. Yes, debt ceiling scam. This is economic sabotage as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, they are also titling it, the official title, the Limit, Save, Grow Act. It was unveiled last week by House Republicans, and it was voted on yesterday. And here's what you should know about it. The House GOP bill would raise the federal government's arbitrary borrowing limit, averting a first ever default that would be catastrophic for the US and global economies. The legislation would also cap spending over the next decade, impose fossil fuel friendly energy policies, restrict regulations, add work requirements for social programs, block President Joe Biden's contested student debt relief plan, and repeal IRS funds intended to reduce tax dodging. Yeah, basically do everything that would stifle the working class people and that the Dems do not want. Yeah, that's right, cutting off services. Also, the reality is that it narrowly passed the House by a 217 to 215 margin. Check that out. 4 Republicans, they had the courage to join Dems. That's Representative Andy Biggs, Arizona, Ken Buck, Colorado, Tim Burchett, Tennessee, and even Mr. Matt Gaetz didn't want it, but who knows? He may have voted against it because it was against some kind of minor trafficking, but I'll just leave that at that. Anyway, well, the response to the bill has really been kind of not so good in terms of the left, for good reason, not so good, of course. For instance, the Earth Justice Vice President Raul Garcia argued this. It's not a serious proposal, but instead a litany of damaging policies aimed at sacrificing the health and safety of our communities and catering to polluting industries. It's shameful that McCarthy and House Republicans are willing to hold our economy hostage, force the federal government into default, and sacrifice the creation of countless jobs in their districts at the behest of their corporate donors. Ain't that some truth right there? And also, who else was tweeting truth? Well, it's the Americans for Tax Fairness. Check out what they said. Breaking, House Republicans just voted to pass McCarthy's debt ceiling disaster, cutting Medicaid, SNAP, Veterans Care, Social Security Administration funding, child care, and more, while protecting tax breaks for the wealthy and the LLCs. Shame. Yeah, that's right. It's an absolute and incredible shame. And of course, it was called out and swiftly. But before we get to those call outs, well, actually, no, let's go ahead and hit them up. Because I know that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is not going to have this bill.
It's a bill that might as well be called the Default on America Act, because that's exactly what it is. DOA, Dead on Arrival. Republicans' Default on America Act would mean fewer jobs, higher costs, leaving policemen, first responders, border patrol, our vets hanging out to dry.
Yes, all the people that Republicans say that they fully support, of course, we know their lip service. And I cannot wait to get to Dan's thoughts. But before we get there, let's see what McCarthy had to say in response to Schumer.
You said at the very beginning we had to show you a plan, even though the Democrats have shown no plan. Not only did we show you a plan, we're the only ones to pass a plan. So I think it's up to you now. Whether the economy goes in any trouble, it's you, because the Republicans raised the debt limit. You have not. Neither has Schumer.
Yeah, McCarthy should know you don't get points by simply passing a plan if it's going to hurt the vast majority of Americans. I don't know, Dan, am I missing something?
You're missing nothing. In Kevin McCarthy must think we have really, really shallow memories, because he's coming from the party that uses the debt ceiling as a political vehicle in order to get what they want, which is austerity for the working class, taking away benefits that are needed, especially at a time when cost of living is increasing at a rapid rate, and then increasingly giving more gains and more benefits to the already ultra wealthy elite who are in this country. So to me, Kevin McCarthy's usual sort of play by going, oh, look, we're Republicans, we're trying to be fiscally conservative. I'll give him credit on one thing. I'll give his party credit on one thing. They've spent the other days of this year talking about banning books and going against LGBTQ plus people and all these other weird culture war issues. And then they picked one day to do a bill. So it's really rich for anyone, especially on the Republican side, especially Kevin McCarthy, to say, oh, well, now it's time for the Democrats to do some legislating and some work. There'd be nothing going on in this country right now, like legislatively positive, if it weren't for what little wins Democrats are able to get here and there.
Yes, and those wins seem to be very little, and also they don't come very often. But people are really paying attention to this. Thank God it is going to be DOA when it comes to the Senate. But let's really look at this, because we know that the House is still going to try, the Republicans in the House are still going to try some stuff, because their grand plan of slashing a variety of programs for Americans is very clear. Check this out. So Limit, Save, Grow Act, this is what it cuts. Kicks millions of healthcare. It kicks millions off healthcare, allows wealthy to cheat taxes, guts veteran benefits, blocks student loan forgiveness, cut food assistance, Meals on Wheels, shrink cancer research, slashes opioid treatment. It does everything we don't need in the United States. And yet, like Republicans say, it's all for the best, for the people, fiscal responsibility. And just as a reminder, it also takes a big hunk at Medicaid. And we know that that plays a critical role in for various portions of the population in the US. Check out this chart here. We know a lot of people would get hurt. This is how significant Medicaid is for a number of people in their lives. Check out that graph there. That is the American people. That is people in need. And yet we continue to ask ourselves, why is it that there are so many representatives who are supposed to be protecting the interests of the people, really out here just harming the people? And we know that Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez asked those same questions.
10 years. So instead of looking at climate and instead of looking at cuts to healthcare, we should examine why our colleagues in the Republican Party is so invested in protecting the wealthiest people in this society and would rather attack healthcare and services for our veterans than repealing tax cuts for yacht owners and private jets.
Well, the only answer I have for her is because the wealthy are the ones that bought those Republicans into office. And they bought them their seats, so I'm sure that's why they want the return on their investment. Any final thoughts, Dan?
No, you're 100% right there in your analysis. It's why you're so wise in these things. But I'm glad that AOC is calling these things out, because if there weren't a bunch of Republicans in office who were fighting all these different things that would help the working class and putting forth all these things that would help rich people, it would be a lot of Democrats who would be coming across the line as well. Too many Democrats who would also be defending a lot of these things too. Not as bad as the Republicans, but too many, and it's important to keep an eye on them as well.